sport. It is one of the pillars of economic growth, with 450 billion euros spent globally this year alone and rising. Investment in sport stimulates all aspects of social and business development, infrastructure, economic growth, opportunity, employment, tourism, and social progress. Global sports events bring nations together and have become a mandatory development tool for business leaders, NGOs, policymakers, physicians, architects, and of course, athletes. Sport is uniquely capable of unifying us across borders and cultures, transcending languages and differences. Sport is the strongest, most positive, and most effective means for achieving our social and economic goals.
So this is a direct segue, really, from the last session about money, about whether money is good for sport or bad for sport, but there is a lot of money around. And we want to talk about where is the smart investment going in sport at a local, federal, and global level. What I'd like to do is underscore that this is very much trying to get over some very clear principles at this point. I'd like to ask each of my guests to speak for literally no more than a couple of minutes. Again, we have time constraints, so you can get the buses and you can move on to dinner. But this is an area which is very important. And I'd like to come back to Eric, if I may. We saw you this morning, Eric, I know, but can we build on what you were saying this morning? Because you were saying, particularly about the younger generation, the next generation, there's got to be new opportunities and new ideas and new ways forward to engage them in sport as well. So can I ask you to pick up and flesh out within this subject of where is smart investment going? Where would you like to see smart investment go?
Sure. I think that you know, I'm mainly a producer at heart, and I think that a lot of times we eschew video games and new technology. There's been a lot of talk on the panels today of, you know, shutting off computers, shutting off tablets, shutting off phones. And we have a saying in America that if you can't beat them, join them. And at Fox, at least in the US and at other networks around the world, we actually try to make our presentation of sports look more like video games. So the investment that we make on the presentation side is in technology to make games actually more accessible, more approachable to the younger generation. And I think from the league perspective, investment in technology in the league perspective will also bring younger viewers in that, you know, a great example is the National Football League. The National Football League actually changes its rules every year. Changes its rules for replays, for challenges, for timeouts. The game literally, you know, looks very different from the day that the forward pass was invented. And I think that that's a big reason why it's hands down the most popular sport in America. Other sports in America seem to cling to tradition a bit more than the NFL. So I think, you know, from a presentation perspective, investment in technology is key.
And are people doing it smartly enough?
I think that no. I think it's difficult because technology a lot of times is trial and error. I think you have to find what the audience likes. There is no, if everybody knew exactly what to do with investment in technology, everybody would be doing it. Everybody would have known how to do Facebook. So technology in and of itself is very much trial and error and feedback based on ratings, based on attendance, based on a lot of things.
Great, okay. Now, as well, we have Frédéric Trier, who is president of the French Football League. Welcome. We have Jean-Jacques Bouya, who is Minister for Spatial Planning and Delegate General for Major Projects for the Republic of Congo. We have Lord Mandelson from Britain, until 2 years ago, a Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills, now running his own company. And at this point, I have to admit a frailty. I don't know who you are because I haven't been told that you were joining me on the panel. So, and I don't have a piece of paper, which is why I was rushing to try and find out. So please introduce yourself.
Anyways, I'm not Cecilia, who's supposed to be here. I'm Mohamed Ozdin, I'm the Minister
One moment, please, let the microphone open.
I'm Mohamed Ozdin, Minister of Youth and Sport, Morocco. And as you see, maybe I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm accidentally here, and it's a pleasure, you know, having to talk to you.
But this is smart investment. Minister, thank you very much indeed, and I apologize for the embarrassment, but I wasn't able to see you because I was doing the last session. So let me pick up, if I may, with Frédéric Thiriet. Smart investment, the challenge of a football league. Where is your smart investment going at the moment?
I believe that professional football is a sport before being entertainment, and that it's a game before being a business. And I believe that the smart investment for an organization like the professional league is financial solidarity with smaller clubs, lower divisions, and grassroots football. It could be a paradox from a man who represents food business to say that, but it's the reality, and I think it's the interest of the competition and even of the elite clubs. An example, if big clubs become richer and richer, it's always the same clubs who win the competition, and the competition loses its interest because it's the uncertainty of sport which gives the value to the competition. So we have to give money to smaller clubs. We have also to have solidarity between first division and second division. Why? Because in our system, open competition, where every year you have 3 clubs from the second division who go up to the first division, the interest of the first division is to have these 3 clubs, strong clubs and healthy clubs. Otherwise, the competition is not good. And then the grassroots football, that's the most important because our players for tomorrow are there. So we spend a lot of money, the French league, to help amateur football. Let's give just figures and I'm finished. It's about the contribution of professional football to amateur football is 120 million euros every year. Half of that paid by the league and half paid by the clubs directly. In conclusion, I would say that in France, probably we have less money than in England and in Spain, but we invest a lot in players' development, and I'm proud of this.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's not debate which country has the most money or the less money. I want to issue a challenge to all of you who are here. I'd like you to come up with ideas of where smart investment needs to go. I'm not going to ask you to file it on your iPads or whatever. I'd like to come to you and I'd like you to explain it after we've heard from each of the panelists. Lord Mandelson, you were in government and also before that a European Commissioner for Trade when critical investments were being made in Britain. What's your view about smart investment? Where's it going in sport at a local, federal and a global level? Where can that money best be used?
Well, when these decisions were being taken in Britain, I was a cabinet minister. I wasn't a sports minister, although I did sometimes feel that as a politician I was getting such a kicking from everyone that it was becoming a sort of national sport. So in that sense, I have a connection with sport. When it comes to public money, there's no question in my mind, any investment has to be smart because it has to deliver results. It has to add value, public good. It has to add to the nation's happiness and enjoyment, its entertainment, its health, its wealth, its education. Because if investment in sport does not bring those things, then you can no longer justify the use of public money in that way. So it's a question not only of investing adequately both in elite sport and grassroots sport, it's also a question of governments investing smartly in the infrastructure that is needed to support sport, both nationally and locally. And I believe also we should remember all the time, and it behoves ministers who are spending public money to remember, that the female half of the population should be 50% of the team. Whether that 50% is as spectators, participants, viewers or beneficiaries, this has to be for the whole of the population and not one half of it.
Is it, let me just be clear, based on your experience for Britain during the London Olympics, smart investment assumes money. What other kind of investment do you need? After all, Britain had a phenomenal return on medals, which surprised many, although it was a great reward.
Well, just think of it. At the Atlanta Games in 1996, I think we gained, what, 1 gold medal? This year, in 2012, we were up at 29 gold medals. Now, why did that happen? It happened because public money was put behind potentially first-class athletes. We put our money where we had comparative advantage in our sports. And secondly, we demanded, and this is very important, as it were, payment by results. And that means if people are not delivering results for the money that you're putting into those athletes and those sporting federations, then the money comes away from them by the same token. So you have to be tough. This is not some sort of national ATM that anyone can go to and pull money out at will just when they feel like it. They have to be delivering value results, and if they don't, then they should expect to see the money being taken away or drying up.
But to be clear, it's money.
It is money. It's other things besides. It's a lot of planning, and it's a lot of continuity in policy. The last thing you want, and we were able to avoid this, thank goodness, in Britain, you don't want one party in government taking a series of decisions. We're going to do this, we're going to put our investment here, we're going to put money there, and then there's a general election, in comes another party, and they go back to year zero and start reinventing the wheel right from the word go. You have to have continuity. When you're making a smart investment, when you're on the right course, you've got to see it through. Otherwise, you're rapidly going to become derailed.
Well, let's now take this to two ministers, and please come up with big ideas in the next 30 minutes, and then we will have a sense of what you think is really achievable, however you want to define smart investment. Jean-Jacques Boyer, we're hearing there from Lord Mandelson particularly the issue of it's got to come from government, they've got to lead when it comes to how you're going to invest in sport, whether cash or anything else.
Merci beaucoup, mais il faut d'abord dire que le sujet est tellement important et tellement vaste qu'il n'est pas toujours évident de pouvoir les circonscrire en 2-3 minutes. Mais les investissements, c'est vrai qu'il faut qu'ils soient intelligents, et en ce qui nous concerne, les investissements intelligents, c'est d'abord une forme de solidarité. Pour nous, membres du gouvernement du Congo, les pays africains, on ne peut pas investir si demain nous ne pouvons pas en profiter. Et les investissements chez nous en matière de sport, dans le domaine du sport, c'est aller au-delà de l'événement qui s'organise. Nous avons, par exemple, à titre d'exemple, puisqu'il s'agit de notre expérience, en 1965, organisé les premiers Jeux africains, et c'était au lendemain des indépendances, 5 ans après. Et les États africains n'avaient pas d'argent. C'était d'abord la solidarité pour que les traits d'union entre ces peuples, pour que les gens se connaissent. 30 pays ont eu à participer, presque avec 3000 athlètes. Et aujourd'hui, comme pour commémorer cela, l'Afrique a voulu que ce soit encore le Congo qui organise encore, 50 ans après, les Jeux africains en 2015. Et cela est utile. Et pour nous, pour les mettre en œuvre, c'est une forme de solidarité. Nous sommes, à titre d'exemple, je voulais dire, déjà à l'époque où nous avions construit des infrastructures comme les stades, et comme un certain nombre de logements, le village olympique en miniature à l'époque, cela a servi à installer les premiers fonctionnaires après l'indépendance. Et aujourd'hui, ce qui se met en œuvre, c'est que quand nous construisons tel les villages olympiques, tel un certain nombre d'infrastructures, cela devra servir pour nous au campus universitaire, puisque par la même occasion, nous pensons que la force de notre pays, la force du pays, c'est dans la jeunesse. La jeunesse, chez nous, c'est 70% de la population du pays. Et si cette richesse, en réalité potentielle, si elle n'est pas valorisée par un bon sport, par une bonne santé, par une bonne éducation, nous ne pouvons pas être arrivés au bout. Donc les investissements intelligents pour nous, c'est mettre en place des infrastructures qui passent au-delà de l'événement, au-delà des Jeux africains que nous allons organiser en 2015, de telle sorte que les infrastructures mises en place, que ce soit les villages olympiques, servent des campus universitaires, que ce soit l'ensemble d'aménagements qui arrivent, servent à créer la fluidité et l'amélioration de la qualité de la vie, déjà dans notre ville qui organise ces Jeux, et au-delà dans notre pays. Il est difficile de parler davantage parce qu'on n'a pas assez de temps, mais nous allons continuer à parler autour. C'est d'abord la solidarité. En Afrique, le sport, j'ai écouté évidemment les éminents personnages qui sont passés ici avant en parlant de l'argent et du sport. Mais le sport, au départ, c'est un amour, c'est la solidarité, c'est le trait d'union entre les peuples. C'est vrai qu'un sport sans argent peut être une utopie, mais on devrait pouvoir créer la communion entre les deux, la communion de telle sorte qu'il fasse véritablement bon vivre. Et évidemment, le président de la République du Congo, son Excellence Denis Sassou Nguesso, très actif dans le sport, nous pousse à ce que tout cela soit mis en œuvre pour qu'on ait des investissements véritablement intelligents et qui passent au-delà des événements que nous organisons pour le bien-être du sport.
Minister, thank you. And Minister, your view as well about particularly what we've just heard from the other speakers before, about where that money should come from, who should be creating this smart investment, and should it be any other kind of investment? In other words, not necessarily cash.
Thank you. While I was listening to the question, I just recall the great words of a great man, Galileo, who once said, "You cannot teach a man everything, but you can only help him discover it within himself." And maybe this is what we need to grasp today. This amounts to saying that the real investment should center around the human element which is at the heart of any development equation. So, speaking about investing in the human element first and foremost involves, again, investing around, the human element in terms of infrastructure, in terms of sport facilities, vocational or training, professional training, as well as good governance. And speaking of good governance, is one of the main or basic issues that is really facing sport managers today when talking about investment, because the issue maybe is not how we can get money to invest in sport, but how can we ensure a good governance, spending those money and making sure that those money going direct to sport. Because we were asking, some people just to justify, let me set this example, maybe the expenses, of some sport activities, but when we're asking them about bringing the ticket of the taxi or the cab, it's not about the person or getting to embarrass the person, but rather to make sure where this money goes direct to sport. And that's the real investment. That is starting from some minor details as far as investment is concerned would be a major start, in this aspect. So the human element first, infrastructure second, good governance, and of course professional training. I guess beyond cash and beyond money, this is the real investment that would allow us to aspire to the excellency of results or to the excellent sport performances.
Because on this platform this morning was Nawal El-Mutawakel, and she was saying very clearly after she won the 400 meters hurdles way back that one of the important things was the investment of opportunity. Opportunity, particularly in the more remote communities, that there were people, not just in your country, but elsewhere, who have great potential, and that's got to be realized as well. How do you invest in that in a country like Morocco?
That's exactly what I was saying when speaking about the human element and the facilities around. That is, of course, there is infrastructure, because sport, as the Pierre de Coubertin once said, for 10 athletes to be able to perform higher, you need to have at least 100 performing, high sport. And again, you need to have something like 1,000, people just practicing sport in general. So this shows us the link, between grassroots work that we need to do today, so that we can foster and encourage and maybe allow some potential, among youth, to be discovered. And of course, there is the potential, but there is the real investment that needs to go with this potential is, first of all, the training, which needs to be professional, because we all speak about training, but what kind of training, we get to do. And again here in Morocco, one of the main focus today is to try and to go to professional training, trying to get inspired from some good practices, from some success stories as far as training is concerned. So this is one point. The second point is, again, getting back to the infrastructure, the sport infrastructure and the sport facilities, so that we can allow those potential, to express themselves. And again, and I'm getting to the point I raised a while ago, we're getting to the good governance. Of course, when you have a good governance, we ensure that the whole system is on track and is on the right way.
All right. Who'd like to come in with some ideas, big ideas, over there? How many people already have ideas? Put your hands up. So I've got an idea of how to scale the next 20 minutes, 3, 4, 5. That's good. Right, let's go over there first and get the microphones to wherever a hand has gone up. And please identify yourself. Please, go ahead.
My name is Mohammed. I'm from Cairo in Egypt. And my idea of a smart investment is any investment that's actually not risking the club. You could invest, like Manchester City did, 500 million and not make it through into the Champions League, while other clubs bid 24 million for a player, and that player could aid them. So maybe a smart investment is an investment that doesn't have any risks with it. Thank you.
Frederick, a smart investment is an investment with no risk in it.
I have to say that I'm favorable to a very strong regulation of clubs, football clubs in Europe, and especially of financial control.
What do you mean?
Clubs should not be allowed to spend more than they have and more than they get. That looks very simple. In fact, it's not done already in Europe. We try to do this in France since 20 years with the financial control of clubs. Michel Platini is trying to take the same system. He called that the fair play financier, financial fair play, so that the competition should be fair. Nobody has to spend more than he has and than he earns. If we don't do that, we'll have crisis, big crisis, and clubs which explodes in Europe, and the competition is completely false.
What happens when you tell a club to do that, not to invest more than they have?
Excuse me?
What happens when, how often do you warn a club, be careful, you're going too far?
The system is a sort of panel of sanctions, going from simple warning to the exclusion of the competition, which is the most difficult sanction with different possibilities. And this is necessary. It works in France for 20 years. So that we had no crisis, no club crisis in France. I'm afraid if we don't do that in Europe, there will be club crisis in some countries in Europe.
But let me pick up that point about investment and the level of risk. Is smart investment which doesn't have risk, or does, Eric?
I think you try to diversify your investments. I think the thing that we like to try to do to mitigate risk is, from a media rights holder perspective, get as far up in the chain as you possibly can. You know, for example, we just did a deal with the Dutch Football League, where we're now an equity partner in the Dutch Football League. The Dutch Football League now uses the leverage of Fox to get greater media carriage and long-term stability. So we're both incentivized for the health and stability of the league.
Did that require risk?
It required, yes, it required risk, because it's not a sure thing that Fox's leverage is the silver bullet to greater revenue for the Dutch league. We think it is. The league thinks it is. We think that it's clearly a better model than having intermediaries between us and the league. And then we have investments that are much more risky. You know, we're starting a venture in Japan from scratch with partners based around baseball. I believe that, you know, that model is more risky. So you diversify and you try different models around the globe, and both, you know, and in the US as well.
Lord Mandelson, I mean, the principle of risk. You've been a trade commissioner, you've been a Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills, which requires risk and investment, and now you're in private business. What's your view, having been inside, you've been in the Commission, and also now in private business, about the attitude to risk, whether it be sport, hopefully more focused on that in this environment, but or anywhere else, about whether and how best to use smart investment and what risk to take?
I don't think you can define smart investment as an investment without risk. A smart investment is one that may not, however, show immediate return or immediate results, but you're investing in the long term so as to build the capability of where you're investing in order to bring a public good. I mean, let me give you an example. An investment in grassroots sport, or an investment in outreach into local communities and local schools by local sporting clubs, principally football, but it wouldn't necessarily be just football. Now, what are you doing when you take such a decision or you make such an investment? You are hoping that over time, and it will be over time, that you're bringing a more enriching experience to school life and to education. You're embedding youngsters who may be more interested in sport than they are in academic pursuits. You are nonetheless anchoring and rooting them in the school, in the educational experience. And in cultivating and nurturing those individuals, you are in time, hopefully, encouraging them and investing in those individuals that they have the potential in due course to join further training, further practice, and even joining elite sporting activity. Now, that is a long-term process, just as when we decided to build the Olympic Park in East London, a very poor, rather contaminated in many respects of the soil and the ground. We decided to use a major international sporting event, the Olympics no less, as a lever for transforming, for redeveloping an entire locality, and a very big locality at that. Now, was that without risk? No, it was not without risk. Was it going to show immediate returns and results? No, it wasn't going to do that either. But in creating that sustainable, lasting impact, you not only had in the process, as a result of your investment, a first-rate Olympic park, but you have the transformation of a previously poor part of London, now with all the transport and other infrastructure that will make a lasting, permanent difference to that part of London and all the population who live there. Now, long term, therefore, but not without risk.
Both ministers, I mean, again, the risk in smart investment. What kind of level of risk are you prepared to entertain, Minister?
Yeah, allow me quickly to get back to the question by the gentleman there from Cairo. I think that, I mean, speaking about smart investment is a very slippery issue. In the sense that
slippery.
Slippery, yeah. Because what do we mean by smart investment? Since as long as the investment is linked to high performance, to results, so I think it's a good investment. It is smart investment. But as long as, I mean, the results and the high performance are not there, so this is a very much less so. So I think as long as we're, because it's hard today to come and be like, to talk to a club and ask, I mean, the investment to be, I mean, lessened to a certain degree or to reduce, I mean, not to expand, to exceed a certain, I mean, a certain level of expenses, you know, as long as the investment is concerned. But the point is, smart investment is, I mean, whether we like it or not, is linked to the high performance and to the result. As long as the results are there, I think the investment is smart.
Which can never be guaranteed. Let's get some more ideas, please. We've got 12, 13 minutes to run, please.
Hello. My name is Kevin Candy from Valley Forge Military Academy in Eastern Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. So my question is, the money should go where it should go. Because if you take a look at Chelsea Football Club was a little football club. But the more the guy spend the money for the club, now the club is in the top 10 of Europe League. And go back to take a look how Manchester City was like, they was a champion last year. But because they put a lot of money for the club, and they succeeded all those stuff.
So what's your question?
My question is, how we should put in a lot of money to pay like a good player for the club to make it better?
We were sort of talking about that in the last session, but are you suggesting that those are not smart investments in sport?
Yeah, they are smart investments in the sport.
All right, well, look, we were talking about that in the last session. Do any of you want to pick up on that point, particularly as we were debating it quite extensively? Any of you?
Well, the question is a good question, but I think the answer for Europe is in the financial fair play we are trying to implement through Michel Platini.
Minister Boya.
Pour dire que il est difficile de dire que le risque zéro n'existe pas. En investissement, ce n'est pas possible. Mais pour rendre ces choses intelligentes, il faut évidemment faire déjà en sorte que la personne humaine ne soit pas chosifiée. Quand vous avez des pays comme l'Afrique, c'est le vivier des talents. Mais il faut les découvrir. Comment les découvrir? En mettant en place des équipements requis. Et à ce moment-là, quand vous avez mis en place les équipements requis, choisi les centres d'entraînement, choisi un ensemble de jeunes, ils sont peut-être nombreux, mais ils ne seront pas tous des élites. Les élites, certainement, iront en Europe, iront dans les grands clubs, gagneront beaucoup d'argent. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait du reste? Et les investissements intelligents, c'est apprendre aussi à ce reste-là, à ces jeunes-là, de savoir faire autre chose dans le domaine qui est le leur. Admettons qu'il voulait être un athlète, il voulait courir son vélo, par exemple, et qu'il n'a pas pu être champion. Mais il peut apprendre à réparer le vélo et accompagner les athlètes, accompagner ceux qui font du vélo, à les assister. La moto, c'est pareil. L'automobile, c'est pareil. Donc, il s'agit de voir comment créer une péréquation entre ceux qui peuvent devenir l'élite en cherchant dans les viviers, en créant, en accompagnant ces pays à mettre en place les infrastructures d'une part, et d'autre part, créer, faire en sorte que le sport ne soit pas simplement une chose, je voulais dire chosifiée pour les hommes. Il s'agit de faire en sorte que chacun trouve sa place. Et c'est à cela que nous pensons que l'investissement peut être compris comme intelligent.
Merci beaucoup. I suspect there was an element of, has Roman Abramovich made smart investments in managers at Chelsea? But I'm not going to allow the discussion on that in this panel. Please.
My name is Dominic Mayer and I come from Switzerland. I define smart investment as an investment beneficial in the long term. Going from this, I observe that we invest large amounts of money in events such as the Olympic Games, where we compete at high levels. Would this money not be more reasonably be invested if in the way where we widen accessibility to sports, such as with the handicapped people, or even simply giving sports to children with obesity?
Are you really saying that the Olympics doesn't lead to a cascade or trickle-down effect, an enormous impact?
I see there are many advantages, but if we consider that the advantages and the trickle-down effect we gain of happiness and efficiency at work from people who play a bit of sports each day, multiplied by the number of people in the world.
Well, should we be as skeptical as that, Eric? Do you feel that way?
I think it's great that people are skeptical, because if you don't ask questions and you don't have new ideas, then you don't ever break with tradition. You know, the Olympics are a long-term investment across multiple Olympics. It's the brand of the Olympics that keeps the spirit alive and keeps sport alive. You can argue whether hosting an individual Olympics, summer or winter, you know, has a lasting effect for that particular economy. But I don't think anyone would argue that the spirit of the Olympics can be better served by dispersing money and trickling it down some other way than gathering the world every 2 or 4 years.
Lord Mandelson, having been involved in those critical decisions, do you have any doubts? You're no longer in Parliament. You no longer have to answer to constituents. You no longer have to campaign. But when you look at the profit and loss account, do you have suspicions that the London Olympics was bad value for money?
No, I don't think it was bad value for money. Not one bit of it. You know, look, I've got some scars to bear when it comes to public investment in major projects. I was, after all, in 1997-98, the minister responsible for signing off the plans for the building of the Millennium Dome. Now, I was vilified by people. I was vilified by the press at the time. They regarded this as, you know, inevitably going to become some sort of white elephant stranded like some lonely spaceship in the middle of some brownfield site in an obscure part of London. What did I discover when I went back to the Olympics? Well, the greatest enjoyment I had was the gymnastics. Where was the gymnastics being held? Yes, in the O2 Arena. My own original Millennium Dome, for which I was vilified all those years ago. It is now literally one of the most, if not the most popular public arenas and venues, certainly in Europe, if not the world. It provided the venue for a brilliant Olympic gymnastics competition, and nobody's pulling it down at the end of the competition. It's going to go on and on and on. Now, what did you have therefore? An architectural triumph, yes. A lasting testimony to far-sighted ministerial decision. Of course you had that. You now have a wonderful popular entertainment venue, but you had gymnastics which provided tremendous encouragement and inspiration and role model for literally tens of millions of people around the world. I think that's a pretty good plus, plus, plus.
Let me get 2 or 3 more big ideas or ideas here. I can see 4 or 5 hands going up. We've got 3 or 4 minutes only. And of course, that stadium is where the Rolling Stones played their 50th anniversary concert a couple of weeks ago. Right, 2 there, 3 there. Please, number 2. Can you be brief, please?
Yeah, Deanna Pyro from the Stanford Graduate School of Business. If you look at sports through the international development lens, one of the opportunities I see is to do more research regarding the benefits of sports, because in the world that we live in, we have finite resources. And so we need to have indisputable evidence to convince people to give money to sports and that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck. I'm curious, and I'd love to discuss more, how we can put more of our resources into researching and sharing the benefits of sports so that we can increase access to it.
Thank you. At the back, further back, you have the microphone, please.
Hello, my name is Zinabul Maki from Morocco. So my question is pretty much to Mr. Uzdin, but also extended to the panel at large. So you emphasized the point of human-centered investment and the focus on professional training. But when that happens, what often occurs especially in countries with less developed leagues, we notice the phenomenon of talent drain, whereby our best players actually migrate to European leagues. And sometimes they even, in some occurrences, even end up being expatriated to other countries. Therefore, wouldn't you think that that's a loss of investment for the country? And isn't that sustainable? How is that sustainable in terms of investment? Thank you.
Talent drain, loss of investment. Over there, please. Who's got the microphone? And I've got 1 minute left, but I'm going to stretch it a little bit, please.
Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. And I was just wondering, with companies like, football clubs like Manchester United IPOing this summer, how is smart investing going to change when you're responsible to investors now?
All right, and one more here. So please choose the ones you want to respond to.
Antoine Aboumetri, Lebanese University. I want to ask if we were speaking about sports for all day long. I want to ask if it's considered a smart investment in sports for all, even in countries in underprivileged countries and in countries that are in conflict or in war zones.
Thank you. Okay. Now look, you're putting me under a lot of time pressure here, but can you pick up, particularly, let me ask Frederick, that issue of the talent drain and the loss of investment, and she was mentioning football.
This is a real issue. And in France also, we have suffered of this phenomenon. Players going in England, Italy, Spain. That's why I'm very sensitive to this problem. The only answer I could give you is we are ready. We want the French football have close cooperation actions with countries like your countries, including, of course, I think you are from Morocco or Tunisia. Yes. Well, we and Africa also, we want to have cooperation links with you to find a way so that the local players stay in their own countries.
Yes, I guess this is a very serious issue. I mean, having to do with the brain drain or the talents drain, if I may say so. And of course, I mean, you can't prevent athletes or players not to accept offers. I mean, they can get elsewhere. But again, we can look at it the other way around, because we've got Moroccans athletes that were born in Europe, and they look at the soccer team. We've got more than half of our players that have been, playing outside. So I guess in Morocco, for the time being, it's not a really serious issue in that aspect. Of course, we've got some few cases where we have athletes who have migrated or have chosen to to play for other countries. But I mean, this is a common problem. I mean, that happening. I mean, among the athletes having to choose to play for one nation or the other. But let me assure you that at least in Morocco, since you're asking the question is in this particular sense about Morocco, I mean, it's not really a serious problem, at least as far as our country is concerned. But again, I mean, it's an issue that we need to look at it, I mean, seriously and see how we can try not to prevent, but to encourage, I mean, or to convince our players with high talents, I mean, to stay and play for their own country.
Très vite, s'il vous plaît, ministre Boya.
Alors, comment les investissements intelligents peuvent-ils changer la donne ou changer les choses? Oui. Pour ce qui nous concerne, par exemple, en 2015, quand nous aurons organisé les cinquantenaires des Jeux africains, tout le village olympique qui sera mis en place servira de campus universitaire. Donc vous voyez qu'autour de ça, il y a là un investissement qui est mis en place et un campus universitaire qui permettra donc de développer toutes les activités d'instruction, d'éducation, d'enseignement. Et effectivement, il y a un hôpital qui va être construit et il sera mis à la disposition des populations. Et dans cette zone, évidemment, des aménagements de la ville, comme disait Peter tout à l'heure, permettra d'améliorer les conditions et la qualité même de la vie. Donc c'est en cela que chaque chose qui doit être mise en place devrait servir au-delà des événements que nous mettons en place. C'est pour nous, les investissements intelligents, c'est cela.
Thank you. And finally, Eric and Lord Mandelson, that particular point about IPOs, Manchester United mentioned. I'll go for Lord Mandelson first, then Eric.
Look, there are three things that occur to me listening to these questions. I think we should be beware of creating artificial opposites or artificial alternatives. There is not opposition, in my view, in sport between commercial return and community benefit. Government does not organize sport. It does not orchestrate sport. There is a market operating in many parts of sport. That's the only way in which you're going to get private sector investors making smart investments or otherwise in order to create the sporting opportunities and enjoyment that people want. So these are not alternatives. They go hand in hand, especially when government money is concerned, because what essentially that's doing is pump priming the community benefit and the national spin-off alongside the commercial return. Secondly, I don't think there's an opposite or an alternative between grassroots sports investment and elite sport investment. Essentially, there has to be provision for capability created for both those things, not least because over time the grassroots investment supports the longer-term elite sport growth. And thirdly, beware of creating an opposite between short-term and long-term. You know, just look at where we are sitting, holding this panel discussion here today. The Inspire Zone's legacy derives directly from the hosting of the Asian Games. What you are seeing is thoughtful investment in Qatar in the long-term hosting of sport. Now, that requires a heck of a lot of smartness. It requires a very strong partnership between government and private sector. And essentially, it means looking to the long term, not simply expecting a short-term gain or result. And if you stop thinking in terms of opposites, either or, and start thinking in terms of ands all the way through our discussion of these matters, then I think we arrive at better conclusions.
Eric, very quickly, anything quickly.
Oh, yes, very quickly.
No,
let me
Eric,
give you...
Eric,
Sorry, Eric.
One of you will have to choose.
Frederick, I'll pass to you.
Okay, Frederick, you have the last word, and then we
It was
move
just
off.
to give you an example of a good investment in football. What I think a good investment. It's not far from here. It's Qatar investment in Paris Saint-Germain in France. That's a very good investment.
Smart.
And we are very proud of it.
Smart.
Smart, yes, it is. It's a long-term and sustainable project.
Long-term, I think.
Neither alternative or opposite, but an and. Thank you very much indeed. We've run slightly over. It is now time to move on to the reception and the official dinner. But I'm going to ask you, if you've got an iPad which belongs to someone who's not you, then please leave it where you are and it'll be collected. Do not walk out of this building with it and forget to bring it back. So those are your instructions for tonight, and I hope you have a good dinner. Meanwhile, to the panel, thank you very much indeed.